In chess, sometimes we oversee some of the easiest patterns that we can spot. We're gonna use some of these to find tactics on the board. So just always look for the alignment of the pieces. In this case, two bishops line on the same line. They can also be here, like line up like this. So in this case, we just play rook c4. And the best move in the position for black is gonna be to sack this pawn, to take this pawn, sacking the bishop. Once we take, this should be a draw with perfect play. Let's say bishop f5. We hit the bishop at the pawn, but they can just retreat. And it's still holdable for black, but it's very, very interesting to see this pattern. We're gonna see examples, more examples later. I would like to mention the bishop attacks in diagonal, right? We all know that. Now, what is the weakness of two bishops lined up like this when we attack them vertically? So, yeah, in this case, the move is really simple, rook c2. And just like in the example from before, they take the pawn, bishop takes on e2, we take back, and now the bishop has to move. This is still a draw, rook a2, but we can harass this bishop. We go again with the most fundamental nature of the pieces. In this case, whenever you see two rooks on the same diagonal, then they probably have some kind of weakness. We can attack them and spot a tactic. In this case, they have these two bishops are also covering these two squares where they might be able to give a check. So let's say this is still a draw, but just in the case they make a slight inaccuracy, something like e3. What you want to do here is actually play f3, possibly preparing for e4, right? Just blocking the bishop, especially this bishop. So if they happen to play e3, now we have this move, bishop f5. Okay, so these two rooks are being attacked. Even when the rook moves, now we can just take the rook. And this is still a draw, but it's a pattern that we're looking for. We're looking always for this pattern. The knights also have a weakness, and the weakness, they have blind spots. I'm gonna try, there is a map, I'm gonna put it here if I can find it. But here what we're looking for is some kind of diagonal, right? They're one square apart, and the knights cannot defend each other. It doesn't matter where they go. When it's white to move, then we can just find bishop d5. It would work the same if the bishop was, for example, here on h3, and we just move to g2, and then we are gonna hit the two knights, right? They cannot protect each other. They're usually very bad at defending each other, the knights. It's the nature of the board, I guess. So bishop to d5, then knight c3, okay, hitting the bishop and hitting the pawn. So once we take the knight, they can take the pawn. It's still a draw, but it's very interesting to see how this plays out. This is a very common pattern that we sometimes oversee because it looks like it's so easy, yet we miss it. So we just play e3 here. Two pieces are one square apart, so that is the geometry of this board. And then bishop goes to h6, he takes on d4, bishop to g7, and we don't really have much to play for here, but I guess we can still play for a win. As maybe, let's say we can push d5 and try to protect the pawn. It's gonna be hard, but we're still playing for a win. Okay, so the next geometric pattern you want to look for is retreating moves. Retreating moves are going to be always kind of controversial in some way, or confusing, not controversial, but confusing because most beginners, most players, we just want to move forward, right? That's what we're supposed to do, especially if chess is representing war. Okay, but in this case, we are relocating our pieces, relocating and improving our position. So in this case, we have a very simple move, which is really subtle. And after black goes here to d6, then we're gonna try to hit these two pieces with queen d1. Queen d1, a retreating move. And yeah, there's nothing to be done here. Let's say they move the knight. We just take the bishop. And if they take the bishop, let's say they go here or something, we can just take the knight, and they're gonna have to move the bishop again, so just to save it. And yeah, this is completely winning for white. Okay, the next thing I want you to do anytime you can is make this formation. Put the rook in front of the bishop like this. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. This is even more nasty because you have all kinds of discoveries. I mean, the rook can be here, for example. It will still be protecting the rook. The bishop will be protecting the rook, and there is no problem. And they say that these two pieces actually form a queen. And yeah, with perfect play, this is a draw. So just to give you an example of the line, rook goes to c8, the king has to move, and then we can take the bishop, right? That's the easiest approach. But even if we don't go for that, let's say we give a check. You shouldn't really move the bishop, you really want to move the rook. But okay, let's just go for this example where we give a check with the bishop, king moves, rook goes to e3, king goes to d7, and this is a draw with perfect play. Let's say, just to finish up this example, so this is a dead draw. Okay, but always try to look for this formation where you are going to put the bishop and now the rook in front of it to form any kinds of discover attacks. Now we're gonna see real examples from actual games. All of that from before, it was a composition, but now let's look for these patterns in the game. So this is black to play, and we always look for forcing moves. So feel free to pause the video. It's a sequence of 2 moves, really, it's not that much. Okay, so the first move is going to be bishop takes on d5. Okay, they're gonna have to retake the rook. And yeah, remember this formation? So we have this diagonal, or this diagonal in this way. So it's very easy to find out the move. Queen takes on a2. And okay, the game continues. They take here the bishop. We take. And yeah, there's no salvation for these two rooks anyway. Let's say they move here, something. Yeah, they cannot protect each other. And yeah, this is gone. Alright, so this is going to be a hidden move on the board, but we can do it, we can find it with the geometry of chess. So in this case, feel free to pause the video, but I'm gonna give you a hint. You don't really want to look for a check or a capture. This is going to be more of a threat, almost like a quiet move. And as we saw it before, it's a retreating move. Okay, so I gave you enough hints. If you haven't found it, pause the video now. But it's going to be queen c2. So queen c2, a really quiet move where we're hitting the bishop. So we're threatening to take here. And the next one is we're threatening to have a discover attack on the king and at the same time winning the queen. So yeah, that's just nasty. Then the best move in the position is to move the king. Then we just take the bishop. Simple. And if they don't do that, let's say they try to save the bishop with they go to a3. Now we have the discover check, hitting the bishop, they take, yeah, we just take the queen. This is completely winning. So always look for these retreating, almost like hidden moves, right? Where we are just hitting 2 pieces at the same time. Okay, this is a simple one, I hope. We're gonna use the combination of the bishop that is on this diagonal and this rook. Okay, so we're gonna use this pattern now, but we have to make it work. I mean, I would love to play, these two are the problem in the position, right? These are the 2 defenders of the king. So the bishop, if I can just kick it out with g4, that'll be great. But does this work? So yeah, I'm actually tricking you because it actually works. You're gonna say, okay, but the knight just takes. Yeah, but we have now, they have unprotected this square. So now we can give a check here. The king moves and we're just gonna win the bishop. Okay, next example, we have a threat here. This is black to play, but we have this threat. They're about to capture this pawn on f5 with nasty consequences. How do you play? What do you play with black? Remember this pattern. When 2 pieces are 1 square apart, and here we have this pawn, this rook that is protecting this square, we can just play g3. So king moves and we just take the pawn, and they're gonna have to decide here what to take. First we look for a pattern. Even when you don't see 2 bishops, I didn't see the 2 bishops, here we have them, but there is also another type of alignment, this bishop and the knight. Okay, so now we're gonna play rook c4, and this is very interesting because he's not immediately winning, right? there is a move that works for them, f5. Okay, now we can play knight to g3, hitting the pawn and the bishop, and also just threatening to win the bishop, and this is still a threat, right? So bishop takes on g3, now we take back with the pawn, knight goes to g6, and then we play g4. If they take, we just take the bishop. So king to e7, he takes on f5, bishop takes, and we still have a slight advantage with white just because of these two pawns that are really promising. So we can start thinking about pushing these pawns, and there is a slight, it's just like 1 point of advantage for white. All right, please comment, like, and subscribe. It was a really simple video on this one. I mean, simple examples, but I hope you like it, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.